we'll close the public hearing, public comment section. We'll do the minutes, consideration and action on the approval of the minutes of the May 20th, 2026 SL4B Corporation meeting. Does anybody have any corrections?
Make a motion to approve.
Second. All in favor? Approve. Minutes are approved. We'll now move on to the next item, public hearing. Receive and hear all persons desiring to be heard on the performance agreement between SL4B Corporation and Vino and Vinyl LLC and LCFRE Sugarland Town Square LLC. Jonathan will take us through the presentation.
Howdy. First, I'd like to introduce Craig Adams. Craig, will you stand up? Craig is the owner of and applicant of for Vino and Vinyl, who's applying for funding through the Retail Refresh Grant today. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Great.
The City of Sugarland's Strategic Action Plan was approved in January of 2025, and it prioritizes the redevelopment of key sites and fostering that, enhancing community amenities and providing forward-thinking housing options. And fostering a commercial environment using incentives will allow the city to drive the types of development and change that it wants to see. Just some background, the SL4B Board of Directors approved resolution number 2509, adopting the policy for a retail refresh grant policy program. And the applicant, Craig, with Vino and Vinyl, applied for grant funding on March 18th of this year. They're actually our 7th applicant through this program. And the proposed project and reimbursement incentive and performance agreement terms were reviewed with the Economic Development Committee earlier this year as well. Here are the program goals. Underlined are the goals that staff believes this proposed project will accomplish, including promoting economic growth, substantially enhancing community aesthetics, creating vibrant activity centers, particularly in Sugarland Town Center, Regional Activity Center, and fostering a transformative reinvestment in commercial areas. The proposed project accomplishes both of these aspects that you see here that are required of the program. For each application, it requires some of the project to involve infrastructure for retail or commercial centers, as well as improvements and /or improvements that improve the visual appeal of our streets and roadways. I wanted to mention that Vino's proposed improvements, especially on the facade side, are stuff on that they're so close to the street in Sugarland Town Center that they will significantly improve the visual appeal of Town Center's streets. All right, let's talk about the applicant, Vino and Vinyl. They opened they're a family-owned business and a wine bar, lounge, and record store, all of that. They opened in Sugarland Town Center in 2017. They recently renewed their lease with Reeves, who's their landlord, also part of this performance agreement as well, for 10 additional years. So they've been here for a bit. This is, I like to include excerpts from the applicant's application. When they apply for grant funding, they do this whole write-up, and they did a really good job doing the write-up. They state that Vino and Vinyl is Sugarland's only wine bar and record shop, with the addition of craft cocktail mixology, expanded wine retail displays, and dedicated record browsing zones, and a new private event room. We hope to become a true experiential retail concept that drives restaurant dining, on-site wine and vinyl shopping, and immersive tastings and listening events, all under one roof. Let's talk about the project site. The project site is at 2245 Texas Drive, Suite 130, right outside this building, just down the street. They currently lease 2,000 square feet, but they also signed a lease for the 2,000 square feet adjacent to their old site. So that was previously occupied by a bridal store. You can see it right here on the bottom with these striped awnings. That used to be a bridal store. And that space has been vacant since July of 2024. So they're going to be expanding into the space right next to them. Let's see. Okay, now here are the pictures of the existing conditions as of last week. I'd like to clarify Reeves' contribution to this project. Because you might walk out there and think, oh, they've already started their project. What's going on? But Actually, this part that you see right here as of today, this is Reeby's part of the project. They paved over 2 parking spaces to enlarge the street's patio footprint, and that curb and patio extension in front of Vino is finished. And that's been completed by Reeby. So what you see today is Reeby's part of their town square project. And I wanted to clarify that this Vino and Vinyl project under the retail refresh grant and the proposed reimbursement doesn't double dip. There's no duplicate funding or reimbursement. So essentially this project and all reimbursements associated are separate from the Project Copper Sugar Land Town Square improvements that were approved by this board in mid last year. So this is Reeby's improvements, and any improvements that are completed after this in front of Vino and Vinyl will be done by the tenant. And under the proposed agreement, the only eligible improvements that are eligible to be reimbursed are the ones that are paid for and completed by Vino and Vinyl. So important distinction there. Let's see, and this is an experiential retail concept, which is why they are eligible to apply for this grant. Now for the proposed project, it's the interior build out of the new 2,000 square foot space adjacent to their site. It's going to include expanded retail areas for wine retail and record shop operations. You're going to install new glass doors, windows for that indoor and outdoor flow that they currently have, but it's going to be much bigger. You're going to extend the existing patio and install a new permanent shade structure, electrical and gas lines for heaters and speakers, new dedicated lounge zones. They're going to be doing facade improvements, and the proposed timeline for this project, they hope to start build later by the end of this summer and finish around 4 months after. They're aiming to finish this project by the end of 2026, but that might get pushed back just a little bit. Total budget that they had for build out was about $600,000, and they requested in their application to the SL4B Corporation $120,000. And I have to mention that when this policy was approved, generally for retail projects, there's a maximum award cap of $75,000. But the policy also states that awards are subject to the board's discretion and are evaluated on a case-by-case basis. For this project, staff is recommending that the applicant's requested incentive of 120, which exceeds the program standard cap, is justified. Staff believes that the higher incentive is warranted based on the retailer's longstanding presence in Sugar Land, its commitment to stay for an additional 10 years, and the importance of Sugar Land Town Square as a regional activity center, and as well as the economic impact, which I'll talk about in a few slides from now. Here's a close-up of some of their architectural plans. The expansion includes a new Vino bistro, a private dining room, a new bar area, revamped lounge, the patio, an enlarged ADA restroom that doesn't currently exist, and more infrastructure improvements, including electrical and bar plumbing. Here's a picture of the outside improvements. And you can see, based on these photos, the additional improvements that don't currently exist compared to that photo I showed a few slides from here before. Okay, let's talk about the economic impact. As part of the application, the applicant provided the following information to demonstrate the increase of business activity that would result from this project. And I wanted to read this because I like this write-up. The overall expansion will add multiple new employees, extend our operating hours from 5 to 6 days a week, and greatly increase sales, and solidify Vino as the only full experiential retail concept in Sugar Land that blends dining, drinking, shopping, wine and vinyl records, and immersive entertainment. This will turn a vacant retail space as well into a vibrant market-driven destination. And the modernized facade and public patio will visibly improve the streetscape and an important Sugar Land commercial corridor. So great write-up from them there. And then some further staff analysis on the sales tax impact. Based on the business's current financial performance and sales tax data, the business demonstrates a positive economic impact. And based on the current business volume as of this year, pre-expansion. The requested incentive of 120,000 would be paid back to the city in about 3 to 5 years, based on that sales tax revenue alone, and likely sooner, if the business increases or sees increases in traffic as a result of the expansion. So, and I can't emphasize this enough. This is one of my final points too before I get into the agreement. Sugar Land Town Square, it's a regional activity center, identified in our city's land use plan. Reinvestment projects in the heart of our city are very important, especially as the development continues to age. It's a strategic economic driver for the city. It houses many of our primary employers, brings in a lot of tourists and residents, and it represents the highest taxable value per acre in the whole city, as you can see on this map right here. Very important commercial. Here's the proposed timeline and next steps. So today we have a public hearing and performance agreement for your consideration. The business plan has applied for city permits and plans to begin construction in the next few months and complete construction hopefully by the end of the year. In terms of currently approved projects in fiscal year 26, the board has approved 4 projects that you can see here on the screen, representing over $1 million in commercial improvement projects. If today's project is approved, that'll be over 1.5. At the beginning of this program, when it was approved, the board directed staff that no more than 500,000 incentives be approved for this program per fiscal year. So far, the board has approved this number in incentive, 208K, and so that 120 additional would bring that to 328,000 in fiscal year 26 in approved incentives. The performance agreement attached to this agenda item and was included in your packet, and it includes the following items. It's an agreement between the 4B Corporation, the applicant Vino and Vinyl, as well as the owner of the space, the landlord, which is Reeby's. Construction must begin within 1 year, must be completed within 1 year from the date of the notice to proceed to the contractor. And then within 60 days of being completed, Vino and Vinyl do the Sugar Land 4B Corporation's invoices and paperwork showing that at least $488,000 was spent on materials and services for this project in order to be eligible for that incentive of 120. And that 488 number comes from one of the quotes that they gave us. I have to say that the applicant does expect that the project will cost significantly more than this after getting their bids back recently. So no concerns there. And then the agreement also requires them to create and maintain at least 5 employees. And the reimbursement payment of 120,000 is expected to be, if approved, would be expected to be made in fiscal year 27. In front of you is a fund balance sheet from the Sugar Land 4B Corporation. Justin Meharada will go over the budget workshop with you here shortly, but we have a healthy fund balance and $2 million in budgeted for reserve for opportunities in fiscal year 27. And by approving this proposed performance agreements, the board finds portions of this project eligible under the state statute, sections 501 and 505. So now for the recommended action, staff recommends that the 4B Corporation or the SL4B Board of Directors hold a public hearing and approve the performance agreement between the Sugar Land 4B Corporation, Vino and Vinyl LLC, and LCFRE Sugar Land Town Square LLC.
Thank you, Jonathan. So we'll now open for a public hearing. Citizens who desire to address the board regarding to this matter will be received at this time. Anyone? All right, we'll close the public hearing and we'll now move forward with the consideration and action of the performance agreement between Sugar Land 4B Corporation and Vino and Vinyl LLC and LCFRE Sugar Land Town Square LLC under the Retail Refresh Grant Program for a reimbursement incentive not to exceed $120,000. We'll open it to the board for discussion. Any questions or?
Yeah, it talked about 5 permanent employees. Is that full time? I mean, the size of it seems like it would be a lot more than 5, but I'm just.
The agreement doesn't differentiate between full-time and part-time employees, so it could be either.
I would say like we currently have like about 14 or 15
Okay.
employees. And the expansion would actually increase that number, I imagine by 5 to 7.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if it was mentioned or not, but another thing that's gonna happen is when we open the 2 spaces, we're gonna add another day of open.
Right, another.
It'll be open on Sundays as well, so
Okay.
6 days a week. The other thing that was on there, but just an important note is we did already apply for our mixed beverage permit. So now we have a mixed beverage permit, so we're serving a full bar as is, but it'll get bigger with the expansion. But that also certainly enhances the tax package.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question?
I guess I'll add some comments. Yeah, speaking, at the time EDC had reviewed this, I was on it. And I think on behalf of the mayor, Councilmember Watley and myself, I think we're all very supportive of seeing the unused space next door getting utilized. Seeing the refresh to the frontal facade and everything else is a good update. And obviously with the increased sales and everything else, there will be a return on this. I think, overall I got a positive review from the EDC.
Great, thank you. Motion to approve,
Motion to approve.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. All right, we'll now move on to the budget workshop. We'll review of and discussion of the proposed budget for SL4B Corporation for fiscal year 2027. Justin Meharado will take us through it. Thanks, Justin.
And I'm excited to be back already to talk about the next fiscal year's budget. We'll jump right in because we do have a little bit of a slide deck to get through this afternoon. Try to get everybody out of here on time. So this afternoon's objectives is going to be starting off reviewing the current financial position of the 4B. Then we'll jump into reviewing the fiscal year 26 year-end projections. I will talk briefly about an update to the sales tax forecasting policy. And then we're going to talk about the proposed 27 budget, and then we'll open it up just for any discussion or further questions on that proposed budget. So I thought it was important to start off just kind of by revisiting the current year's budget and how we're looking to end the year as it sets the financial stage for as we go in. I wanted to start off specifically with sales tax since it is the major revenue source of the fund, and it's partly why the fund is in such a great financial position. Through those year-to-date collections, sales taxes continue to perform very well and has exceeded our original budget expectations. Assuming the remainder of the year comes in at budget for July, August, and September, staff is projecting that the 26 budget is going to come in at 10.3 million, which is about 800,000 or 8% over that original budget estimate.
Are we doing questions in the middle of this or at the end? The workshop, right?
Ask as we go, yes, sir.
Question on this one, I was gonna kind of ask in the previous item. So liquor sales tax and everything else, is that grouped into this or is that a separate item?
It's a separate mixed beverage tax. Yeah. Go to the general fund.
To follow up on that, I know the city gets 2% of the sales tax. What percent of the 14.5% alcohol does the city get? Do you know? I should know. I sold it before.
I can get you that information. The calculation changed a couple of years ago, but
It's minutia, but it adds up.
Just one other quick one. Have we seen a bump in activity with the World Cup?
so since that's occurring in last month in June and July, we won't see that until August and September because there's that 2-month delay, but we are definitely also highly anticipating seeing that data come in to start that analysis.
Good.
Yep. So looking at the 26 year projections, in a whole, we can see that fiscal year 26 in general started off in a more positive position with about 1.08 million in additional beginning fund balance, and that's just due to fiscal year 25 ending better than we expected. With the performance in sales tax revenue and an offset and a reduction to the interest income, we're looking at about 740,000 in additional revenues. That combined with the additional beginning fund balance puts us having an ending fund balance of 15.6 million, which is 1.8 better than we initially expected. And that pushes our fund balance to be 14 million over the policy requirement, which is just 15% of the original budget sales tax. That's just in place, so if we see things like loss of sales tax payers or, you know, the most extreme example, right, COVID shutdowns, things like that, just kind of weighing that decrease. So kind of segueing from seeing the current year performance on sales tax, I wanted to also highlight it's not just a current year trend, right? We're looking back here at 5 or 6 fiscal years, and we can see that that performance is part of a longer term trend. So this chart here illustrates both the budgeted sales tax collections in the blue bars and then the actuals in green. In any one year, you could see we're anywhere between $1 million to $1.5 million over that budget by the end of the year. So rather than relying on conservative estimates that were developed as a part of the previous forecasting methodology, we began utilizing a more data-driven forecasting methodology with the goal of tightening those forecasts and building budgets that more accurately refine those revenues.
Question.
Now, do you have a breakdown of how much is in person, like in-person traffic in Sugar Land versus online retail?
You have a contract with Zactax, and they also help us analyze the collections that we get from the comptroller's office, and they do break it down between remote and brick and mortar. So we could get that information.
We'll share at some point. Useful.
And so here on the final chart here, I've tried to highlight the difference between the prior forecasting methodology, what it anticipated for fiscal year 27. That was about 9.9 million. The 10.3 for fiscal year 26 in the orange that we're projecting to end the year. And we can tell with the revised methodology, the 10.5 for fiscal year 27's estimate is more in line with what we've seen historical in collections and in the growth rate of the collections. I want to also just kind of highlight maybe a little more detail the change to that policy. On the left side is a prior methodology. It assumed the current year's recurring collections, which would be the total less audit adjustments, which were provided by the comptrollers. That's just if we had incorrect jurisdictions or wrong amounts, things of that nature, as well as our analysts going through the monthly collections and identifying anything that looks out of the ordinary. We would take that plus an inflationary growth rate from the CPI, and that would give us next year's budget. That kind of ignored all the other economic factors that would impact sales tax collections. So our revised methodology assumes a baseline monthly collection. It looks at the seasonal trends, right? So you see people spending more during the Christmas periods or summertime. And it also looks at a variety of economic indicators, inclusive of CPI, but also things like home sales, building activity, unemployment rates, gas prices, things of that nature, to get us our next year budget. Yes.
Quick one. I like the one on the left because it's simple and it's consistent. My question on the right, 2 questions. One is does this create a lot more work to put that together? And 2, why do we think if we introduce all these variables that we're going to be more accurate with the revised methodology versus something that we've had a lot of experience with being stable?
Certainly. I think it comes, so in terms of the work it takes, the model we built is pretty automated, and we can pull the data information that goes into it. So it's not that difficult. What we did is we did pull, I want to say it was 50 different economic indicators, and we conducted a correlation analysis to see which one's most related to sales tax collections. And these are the ones that rose to the top. Many of them are as local as we can get them. The inflation is based on Houston Sugar Land MSA. The gas prices is the Texas Weekly Retail. We try to get it as close as we can, not only to improve the accuracy, not just for the sake of making it more complicated, but also because the sales tax collections also go into the city's general fund and the SLDC. And so there's more financial pressure, right, on the city's general fund. And it's important to us to try to make sure we more accurately forecast that capacity so that we can make funding decisions on behalf of all 3 funds that collect sales tax.
A couple of comments on this one. I know we talked about this during the retreat. One of my concerns was it kind of takes away the margin of safety, that cushion, which, you know, one of my questions was, how often is this updated? Is this updated on a monthly? Because when we're doing the budget projections and the revenue projections to set the tax rate, obviously that's done once. And then we just get what we get in collections for the remainder of the year. So if it does go down, what impact does that have on how we handle our spending? And then do we have any examples of years where the tax revenue did drop? And would this method have caught that, or where do we stand there?
You look like you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I actually said the director of budget. We look at sales tax every month that it comes in. We evaluate it, we review it, and we're monitoring it monthly. So while we adopt the revenue budget on an annual basis, we're constantly monitoring it. So if we are seeing trends where we will be where we see sales tax dropping, one thing we're watching very closely is gas prices. Because gas prices mean people spend less at the store. And so we've been monitoring it very closely and watching how it will impact our sales tax. So this methodology not only allows us to better prepare and plan for what we think we're actually going to receive, but it also helps us make sure we're using all of the information we have at the time. So if we see a trend down, we're not going to wait until the next budget to make changes. We're going to be having conversations with the board, with council, and being proactive in that. We also have we're conservative still in this methodology. So while we did increase our sales tax budget, we still are applying a conservative methodology on it, that we're not going as far as possible. When we originally built this method, we looked at, okay, here's the optimistic, here's where we actually think we're going to come in, and here's the pessimistic. So we're looking at all three of them, and we came in kind of at a conservative level of where we think we're actually coming. So does that help answer those questions?
How much of our buffer dropped from? I know it was what, 600, 800,000 in the past, and what are we down to now, like 200 or give or take?
Drop from.
The differential between what we're projecting versus what we're receiving. Obviously, you said we have still some safety factor, but how much have we gone from previously to where we're at today?
So we haven't, this will be the first year that we use this methodology for what we budget. So what Justin in his first slide showed is we are coming 8% above what we budgeted last year using the old methodology. When we run our forecast numbers, what came in this month was exactly what we forecasted it to be. Not what we budgeted, but what we were forecasting it to be. So. But like I said, in the monthly report we prepared, we're constantly watching that. Sure.
Thank you.
That's also kind of what the policy requirements here, right? The fund balance are for. I think that's probably where that 15% policy requirement comes forward, is trying to account for if we see that level of a dip. I think we were slightly below that when we saw, shutdowns back in the COVID period. So I would hope we wouldn't see anything that drastic. Or have safety nets for that. If no more questions on the policy, I'll move right into 27. All right, so 27, that methodology does get us a total of 11 million in revenues, which is 10.5 in sales tax and $500,000 in interest income earned on the fund balance. 4B does keep its fund balance invested in a variety of investment vehicles. As of the end of May, we're earning about 3.68% on that. So those revenues of 11 million, as well as some of the existing fund balance, goes to support 13 million in proposed expenditures for fiscal year 27. We'll dive into each of these categories in more detail on the coming slides, but I just like to share this chart because it kind of gives an at a glance view of the primary activities in the fund. So moving on to that first one, I call here operating incentives. That includes $1 million. About half of that goes to fund the operating program of the economic development and redevelopment program. That's going to include things like marketing, business relations, so on and so forth. 27 also includes the final $300,000 payment for the FIFA agreement. And then year 2 of the $250,000 event sponsorship with Reeves for events here in Town Square. And then we have $18,000 for the administration of cultural arts. Incentives of 1.57 included 1.5 million for the Sugarland Town Square revitalization program and 70,000 for potential payouts for the sales tax performance agreement with Outdoor Lifestyle Center at the mall. And then additionally, as John mentioned, we do have reserve for opportunities budgeted for fiscal year 27 at $2 million. So next up would be our, outstanding debt. So this is specifically just sales tax revenue bonds for the 4B, specific obligations for the 4B Corporation. Currently we have one issue. It's the Series 2019 refunding. Right now we have about 15 million in outstanding principal. This particular issuance refunded original bond sales that funded a lot of those quality of life projects like Constellation Field, the Imperial Park softball. I'm drawing a blank, the convention center and parking here in Town Square at the hotel, and then some parking and drainage improvements at the mall. Next up is our capital improvements program. For fiscal year 27, we have just under 2.6 million programmed in. That's going to include 2.26 for parks projects and 300,000 to continue the fund grant program. And I'm going to have Kimberly come up here to talk in just a minute. You're excited. He's going to come up in just a minute and talk in a little more detail about that. So it's not just a line item on a slide, but you'll get to know more about the projects that we're proposing. Then next up, we do have transfers to other funds. That's going to include to our general fund of 1.65. That includes about 1.1 million in salary reimbursements for about 17 positions, together with economic development and redevelopment that are budgeted in the general fund, but support the type B activities that we have in the 4B. And then there is 530,000 for cost allocation. So that supports all the other staff like budget, accounting, HR, all the other general fund budget activities that help support, deliver type B stuff. Second, we do have a transfer of 2.8 to the debt service fund. This one differentiates from the prior outstanding debt that I showed in that this is the self-supported debt issuance. The COs that funded the purchase of the Imperial property, those are budgeted and technically legally backed by property taxes, but they're structured to be 100% repaid by sales taxes, 50% from the 4B and 50% from the SLPs. And then lastly, we have 97,000 going to the Civic Art Fund. That is a reduction from what we had planned last year at 250,000. What that's going to do is allow us to utilize existing 4B fund balances in that Civic Arts Fund for approximately 345,000 in projects. And I'm going to show you those here in a second. Before I do that, I just kind of wanted to show you the remaining commitments on the Imperial COs. Those are going to be maturing in about fiscal year 2045. This was structured with a declining debt service, and that just allows us to pay the principal down quicker and save interest over the life of the loan. We declined from about 2.3 this year down to about 1.3 million in the last year of debt service. And so getting into those civic arts projects, the first one up on the list is 60,000, and Nicole, help me out if I butcher this, for the High by Kozo installation that we have at Smart Financial Center. 40,000 of this is going to be for the last year of the lease contract for the installations, and then 20,000 is going to be to remove them from the site. Next up is 90,000 for 3 functional art benches. These are past examples shown. Some of these are, I believe, at Memorial Park and other areas. Here in Sugarland, we're looking to propose funding of 90,000 to have 3 more additional installations. We have 115,000 for additional murals across the city. Here are some more examples of those. I believe that we've done at the senior center, the basketball court here as well. The next up is 40,000 for 8 additional installations of the little libraries. These are found at various park sites and stock the books. And then last but not least, I believe, is 40,000 as well for 8 additional traffic murals. There's some of those examples. I know they kind of stand out and add some of that beautification you'll see along major roadways across the city. Or before Kimberly jumps up, I want to pause and just ask any questions on these while I have Nicole here to help me answer questions.
Or a general question, if I could. We had put together or given funding for an art directive or plan, right? You ever get that back or no?
Correct, we are still reading the public art plan. We anticipate getting that for this board as well as city council for the end of the year.
End of the year? Okay, thank you.
No more questions on that, then I'll let Kimberly run up here.
Yeah, no, I get excited. Howdy, I'm Kimberly Terrell, Director of Parks and Recreation. I'm going to talk about the 3 projects that are proposed for the FY27 budget for SL4B. So just in general, we consider parks infrastructure, right? I mean, they're amenities as well, but they're also infrastructure. They really work to enhance the quality of life for our neighbors and our community. And just like any infrastructure, like sidewalks or pavement, they are aging and they need to be replaced over the years. Data, you guys are, I know we're talking about a lot of data. Our folks in our community survey rate parks positively. We have been sustaining about an 84% positive rating. However, we have seen a declining rating for sense of community cycle over cycle, and parks are one of those places that can help improve and enhance the quality of life and that sense of community. Over 83% of our residents live within a 10-minute walk of a park, and that's versus 74% in sort of the average big city. Our strategic plan calls for safe, welcoming, and vibrant spaces for all generations. Our first project is sports field lighting. This project will replace outdated and failing metal halide lights with LED lighting at City Park and Lost Creek Park. And in addition to the lighting, it replaces the wiring and the control systems and all of those parts and pieces that come along with it. The budget for these 2 projects is $1.6 million. Why now? The metal halide lighting is being phased out. It becomes harder and harder and harder and more expensive to find the parts that we need to replace these. Our existing lights are sort of 30+ years old. And when we look at the parks, we'll kind of go over sort of their age and when they were funded and sort of those pieces and parts. But we've tried to replace things. We tried to, different varieties of companies, and some will fail quickly after we've replaced them. But the new lights, they're easy to program. They have schedules that we can actually work on our apps. So right now, our folks have to go out. If somebody rents a field, our folks have to go out and they have to turn on the lights, and then they have to turn off the lights at the end. So this helps us not only with the light output and the light quality, but also those operations as well. And there's little to no maintenance cost for a decade for the new lights. They're warranted for 25 years of operation. And if you're not familiar with metal halide lighting and kind of what that looks like, here's some examples of what that is in our parks. You can see in the left picture sort of what, we have failed light fixtures. Light fixtures will go out randomly. Of course, that affects our users. They may not have the same coverage and the same light output over their fields. It takes these big, huge 70-foot lifts to be able to change any of these light fixtures out. And sometimes these will fail completely, and we'll have to involve our contractor in some of these bigger projects to repair these. So City Park, that's Sugarland's oldest park. One of the fields up here has been converted already in 2019, and the results have been extraordinarily successful. The league that uses it just loves it and keeps asking us, when are we going to do the next fields? So we've been monitoring that, and it has been successful. I will also point out that this field, Baker Field, was renovated in 2007 by SL4B, but we kept the original lights for budget needs. But this field, unlike the other fields, this field, the poles actually do need to be replaced. The poles are at the end of their useful life. And then Lost Creek Park, the fields that are here have lighting that was funded by SL4B with the park in 1996. This is utilized heavily by Imperial Soccer Club, and all of those fields to the right, to the east, would need to be replaced as well with the LEDs. Any questions about this project before I move forward?
Quick one on the economic analysis, I almost, based on what you said, seems like this would pay for itself over years.
It would. I think the ROI ends up it being about 20 years, because it's not just the lights themselves, right? 'Cause when we relamp fields, it costs about $50,000 when we relamp them, and that's about every 5 to 8 years. And then the cost for, I looked up the light bill before I came, and the light bill for each of these facilities is about $50,000 a year. So it would save about 70% of that per year.
Great.
Still good.
Yeah, in addition to, as I said, the economics of not having to have somebody, go out there and turn off the lights, the ease of use with the app is just, it's been really, really great. So project number 2, Sugar Mill Playground, that's in Sugar Mill Park. It's in District 1, kind of in the Covington Woods, the Sugar Mill area. It is about a 5-acre park. Residents name playgrounds a top priority. It's not really a surprise. It's almost tied for number 1. It's just below indoor recreation in our community survey, and that's to enhance play areas and playground equipment. And as I said before, we have 84% satisfaction in our parks, and we run the risk of that starting to decrease as things age. It serves as a community park for a number of homes in that area, and we want to make sure that those folks have a place to go and play. It's 24 years old. It was built in 2002 and funded by SL4B at that time. And there have been no significant improvements from that time. Our parks maintenance folks do an excellent job of keeping things safe. They're sort of essentially kind of building back the playgrounds sort of piece by piece to make sure that they're safe. One of the things that's really benefited us is when we installed this park in 2002, we used really good high quality playground equipment that we've been able to kind of keep and patch up. But it is about 4 to 9 years past its useful life. It's got rust, missing bolts, some of those things that you would imagine. I've got some pictures of some of that in a second. And then the decking for it has been replaced multiple times the last 2 years. And again, that's due to rust and just unsafe conditions. We want to make sure that our kids have a safe place to play. Mayfield Park, just as an aside, 4B funded a total renovation of that park in 2017, and just the redevelopment around that area has just been incredible to see. A lot of the houses that are surrounding it have started to repaint and add fences, and really kind of we're seeing sort of an increase in property values, an increase in those areas, right? And just an increase in visitation. That park is very heavily used by that community, and they use it as really a community gathering space, which we'd love to see. So these are just some pictures of what you would see if you go out to that park today. You'll see just areas of rust, and we keep painting over those, vandalism, just places that are detaching, and just overall just the structure is just it's got some pieces that are sort of rusting and falling apart. So again, we are making sure, and we have playground inspectors that go out and look at them. We are keeping everything safe. I want to make that clear, that we are making sure that it's safe. At the point where it becomes unsafe, we'll make sure that we put it out of commission, but we want to keep our kids safe. The proposal is $410,000. This is for the playground and playground construction. I do want to point out that Our intention is to replace the existing playground that's there in the existing area that's there. One of the things that we are changing is adding what we call poured in place surfacing, which is that kind of that hard rubbery surfacing that you've seen with the if you went to the all accessible playground that's in our parks or the Fort Bend County one, and that really improves accessibility overall. We do have one playground like this already in our park system, which is at First Colony Park, and we've had that. It was funded by 4B. We've had that for a number of years, and our staff has been really great at being able to maintain keep that and keep it in good shape. So there's just two recent playgrounds in the area, one in Sugar Land and one in Victoria, and of what that might look like for this sort of a similar budget. Questions about?
Quick one, just curious, does that surface get really hot?
It can, a lot of it depends on the color. The darker the color, the hotter it's gonna be. That's why shade becomes crucial, but it can get warm, yeah, especially if you specify a darker color.
That park has a bunch of trees around it too, so it does have shade. I walk by there every night.
We've been to the new Fort Bend All Access grandkids, and that surface is fabulous. Yeah, I'm sure it can get warm.
I was at the Space Cowboys game and they have a similar surface and I was putting hands on it. Theirs is very dark colored, so I was curious kind of how warm it was, and it was quite warm. But you're right, the park does have a lot of great existing trees, and we would add shade as well. Shade is one of the #1 things that's requested in any of our parks. Okay.
We'll go back one. For the playgrounds, is the 4B the primary source of funding for the refresh, or do we use any other sources of funding for, rebuilding them?
So it is now our current source. 10-15 years ago, we were able to, when things were a little bit less expensive, we were able to spend a lot of our parks rehab funding on replacing playgrounds, and that's how we did some of the past ones, but playgrounds were a little bit less expensive then, and we also had less needs. So as our needs kind of system-wide grow, as things age, we haven't been able to use that funding for this because it's just gotten too expensive to use those general fund dollars.
Follow up to that one. Do we have a list of our existing inventory and what our projected replacement is like throughout the years?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And we have a lot of our parks were built in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And so you will see, we have a projected list for the next 10-15 years, especially for Sugar Land 4B, on what those projects are that we would bring forward, because we have about 3 to 5 playgrounds that are in the same existing state today in our parks. And so those are needs that we've identified for the future.
Okay. It'd be nice to see that, and then just to see the prioritization, and then if you guys expect the cost to stay the same, pretty flat, or expect dips and troughs in
Mesquite Park, this is in the Settlers Way area. This park is about 2.5 acres, a little bit less than that. I did have an updated image here because I just want to point out that we have a brand new pedestrian bridge right here that connects this neighborhood to a lot of other trails. So this park becomes sort of one of these key areas for entry to this trail system. Mesquite Park, we don't have any improvements on record. This park we actually acquired from the HOA back in 2007, and we've been repairing it since then, but it hasn't had any major work or replacement there. And we really see this infrastructure as again, sort of like Mayfield Park, as a catalyst for neighborhood improvements. As once we work and we revamp parks like we did in Mayfield Park, we really see the adjacent areas kind of reacting to that, and it becomes a bigger gathering space, et cetera. This is one of our lower use parks. Looking at Placer AI data, we have sort of lower usage in this park in general. And again, we've been working on this park and playground and we always make sure that we're keeping it safe and responding to resident requests, et cetera. But again, this park is great. It's key for revitalization. It's got that trailhead there, so we're super excited about this piece. In addition to the playground being at the end of its useful life, the trails and other things in that area, the ones that are interior to the park, are very cracked and need replacement. So we are proposing a complete redesign of this park. So the last one was just a playground replacement. This one would be just relooking at the park in general. It doesn't have a lot of the great placemaking things that our other parks have. You can see it doesn't have pavilions, it has these little benches, it really doesn't act as that community hub that people might gather in. So this particular 250,000 is for the design alone. I want to make sure that that we indicate that the design will, especially since it's a neighborhood park, that it's really going to be crucial that we involve the neighborhood in the design of this park to make sure that it's something that they want to use and that they will use on a daily basis and they will gather in. So this is the design only. The actual park projected would be the following year for funding, and we're projecting that to be about I think we had it at about $1.4 million for that, but that would be a future project that we would bring you. So this is for the design only.
Question. Do we do the demographics around those? Like, so we know if it's a younger neighborhood or older neighborhood or that type?
Yes, and our placer data, we have the data that we can sort of see what that overall is. Like most of our neighborhoods in Sugar Land, we have seen more of an aging population, which, a lot of that could lead to kind of the, lesser visitation, et cetera. But we need to make sure that we're considering that we're building things that are good for the folks in that neighborhood, but also the future folks that might move in there as well. But yes, absolutely. So this is our FY27 total park stats. Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll wrap it up here. Next, we just kind of a summary of the finances for fiscal year 27. Again, we're planning 11 million in revenues and 13 in expenditures. That puts us drawing that fund balance down by about 2 million. However, we're still left with 13.5 million in fund balance, which is 12 million over that policy requirement for the year. Looking across just at the 5-year forecast, we continue to draw it down over the next couple of years by fiscal year 31. If some of those expenditures drop off and some of the existing commitments drop off, we see that we start to build that back up through the forecast where there's so well over that policy requirement. But bond coverage continuing to grow as the sales tax in the out years is forecasted higher. So next steps for the 4B are going to be, it's going to be filed along with the rest of the city's budget next week. And then we're going to bring it back to the council on the August 20th workshop. And we're planning right now to try and get back before you on August 26th to do the budget approval. And then it'll be wrapped up completely on September 15th with the budget being approved by council. With that, I'll take any further questions.
Oh, thank you. That's great. Nice to be healthy.
Before we close out on the budget part, I just wanted to mention that August 26th date, that is not one of our regularly scheduled meetings. That's a special meeting that we're looking to call just to kind of make the flow with the workshops and the council, the overall council city budget process to work. So I just wanted to call that out for you.
All right. Do the director's report now, Devin.
All right, good afternoon. As always, we have a lot of great information to share with you for our director's report. Again, this is just an opportunity for us to share high-level updates on different things that are going on throughout redevelopment, economic development, and tourism. If you do have any questions afterwards, we cannot ask them right now, but we can certainly follow up at a future meeting, or if you'd like to send an email. So for the business development team, PG Golf celebrated a milestone of producing and selling 1 billion golf balls. So if you're not familiar with PG Golf, they have been in our community for a very long time, and they're very unique in that they recycle and refurbish golf balls. And so a huge sustainability aspect, but a very interesting business model. And so they celebrate a really amazing milestone. Mayor McCutcheon presented a proclamation honoring their achievement. And we just got an opportunity to celebrate one of our longstanding businesses here and a big milestone that they had. All right, we have hosted businesses at Smart Financial, Constellation Field, and FIFA matches as part of our ongoing business retention efforts. And really, just kind of a snapshot of the strengthened partnerships and having some of those conversations about business needs and their future opportunities, because sometimes this is the opportunity for a jumping off point for being able to retain that business, expand that business, or maybe future business opportunities for the city. All right, and so we did have something that actually went to the Sugar Land Development Corporation last week or the week before last. Was approved a $1.3 million performance-based agreement to support Deliberate's headquarters expansion in Sugar Land. This includes a 60,000 square foot. Oh my God, there's an acronym here on my sheet that I will not be able to figure out. But basically a pharmaceutical manufacturing facility, and it is almost a $12 million capital investment and 55 new jobs. A really great opportunity to further advance the city's strategy in growing our life sciences sector here, and also the advanced manufacturing ecosystem that we also have here in the business park. So really great announcement there. All right, and so it's been a busy time with the FIFA World Cup being in America. And so from June 13th through July 19th, we've got one more watch party, but Visit Sugar Land and Reeves has really transformed the plaza out here into a vibrant outdoor destination. There has been 7 official FIFA World Cup watch parties. So far, it's been really fun, family-friendly environment for both residents and visitors. And more details on the kind of return on the investment that the city had in the FIFA sponsorship will be available in the coming months. As Justin mentioned, some of those revenues do lag, as we'll get some of that reporting information. All right, one more piece about FIFA is we do have the merch store here in Sugar Land Town Square, further down that way at the corner. And it was the first FIFA World Cup official merchandise store that opened in the greater Houston area. It opened on June 4th and was recorded as the highest FIFA merchandise sales in the country by June 13th. And so between June 4th and July 7th, we had approximately 6,000 visitors, and the dwell time was 23 minutes. And just a little bit of information on the demographics there on the captured market of 32% Hispanic of those that are coming, and really interested in all the merchandise. I've perused in there a little bit myself, so. Okay, Imperial, we have some really exciting stuff coming up. You know, we're still continuing our master development procurement process. We're still in the process of the design and future preservation for the Char House, but it's time to add a little bit of color. And so we have a community informed mural project that will be coming to the Imperial site. You'll see down here, this cinder block wall here is in front of the silos. And so that is going to be the location for mural artist Tyler Kay is going to be on site. She's been visiting with some key stakeholders. We also have a survey out right now. If you've seen it, we've got it on the website, you've seen it on social media. Really encourage people to fill it out. We're really trying to get the sentiments of the community so that she can create a mural that really represents Sugar Land. What are some of your memories? What is the history? What does this place mean to you? And so it has been officially launched. We are going to have an artist activation at the Party at the Plaza event that's going to be at Smart Financial Center. That's one of Park's series that they do. And so we're going to be over there having some activations just to get people ready for the mural. And then on September 3rd, there is going to be a community painting event by the numbers. You will be able to participate in actually being a part of creating this mural. So anyways, I'll just say, look at the QR code, tell your friends, tell your family. We're really excited about this and see what this kind of will be unveiling for this site. Okay, our redevelopment team joined Brixmor Property Group for a tenant meet and greet at the Lake Point Shopping Center over where the Whole Foods is located. So, you know, some of the highlights was just, this is an opportunity to hear from our businesses, their needs, opportunities firsthand, but also to be able to promote the Retail Refresh Grant, which you heard about one of our applicants today, and just continue to strengthen those relationships. You just never know where those opportunities lie for that reinvestment to happen, and to work with our existing owners and businesses to make that happen. And then First Colony Mall Playground, so thank you, Director Goodrich was there, Councilmember Betcher was there, as well as several of our other board members and council members aren't here with us today, but to help us with doing the official ribbon cutting on the First Colony Mall Playground. This was our first completed retail refresh grant, and so it was approved in March 2025. It opened earlier in the summer. We kind of got rained out on our first ribbon cutting, and so we were back again to finally complete that. And so we've got this new area and expanded public seating at First Colony Mall. I know my family, we've already been out there several times, and so we hope the community and visitors can continue to enjoy that. And then finally, your reminder to stay engaged. Every week we do share a lot of information on our LinkedIn. So if you haven't already, we hope you will be following us. And if you get questions, people are like, where can I get more information? Please send them this way, because this is a great place to really hear all the great things that we have going on. And one more thing, you do have these at your seat. These are some new promotional material we have for the retail refresh grant. And so just wanted you guys to have a copy. We will be using this as we go out and meet with different property owners and businesses to promote the retail refresh program. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Debbie. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.